Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone ahead and rearranged vertices as before using the exact same techniques as before, and I've moved them so then the lines are still in the position, so things like knees, ankles, the groin area, the waist, and so on and so forth all the way up. I've moved everything so then it covers some kind of rough geometric shape, which you'll be able to see from. So if I go ahead and do this, so you should be able to see now from here, we have a rough bunny shape going on. Now this is where we want to be before we start adding any kind of extra edges, vertices, any kind of flamboyant or extra dimensional geometry. We want this, okay? Now I recommend at this stage you save, and I usually save in increments. So we are going to go to increment and save, do continue. And down here you should be able to see that it's saved as increment. At this point I'm on 0.2. Yours will probably say 0.1, 0.2 if you've been already saving in increments. Now the good thing about increments is that it means you have a little play-by-play history, and if you want to jump back to any particular point you can, but don't try to save in increments too often, otherwise you're going to have increment 23 and you're not going to remember where on earth in the process that was. So I normally save in an increment when I'm about to make a big change, something quite significant. So now we have these lined up. You may be able to see from the artwork that this is not in line. This is not the best reference artwork. So this is where your own personal judgment is going to have to come into play here. I would personally suggest going with the longer ear to follow rather than the shorter ear, just because of the angle of the bend of the ear. Now at this stage, I want to start adding more edges and start fleshing this out. So we know where we're going to go for this. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to my meshed tools and I'm going to insert an edge loop. I'm going to go right to this point here and I'm going to tell it to go ahead and just add some extra lines there. And I'm also going to do it here as well. Now it's going to get rather compact if you're not careful, so try not to go too insane with the adding of the edges. Take it slow, one step at a time, and only add when you absolutely need to. So now that we've done this, this is where the top viewport is really going to start helping. So I'm going to pull out here for a minute. The top viewport's kind of been ignored at this stage throughout, but this is where you're really going to start using it. Apart from looking at the perspective, which you will be rotating back and forth and looking around and trying to see where things are, you will be using the top viewport to help you circle off and make the geometry more organic and more rounded. So just to demonstrate what I mean, if I go to vertex and I need to start rounding off this head, pure and simple, it's looking very, very, very blocky. So I'm going to grab this vertex here, which you can see from above, and from above I'm going to start pulling out. Okay, and actually starting to round it. Now as you can see, by doing that, it's going to actually start curving the lines along the head. Now don't panic if that happens. The geometry is not meant to be perfectly straight. The only time you see perfectly straight geometry are with things like buildings and anything engineered and man-made and mechanical. When it comes to anything spherical or organic, the mesh lines are supposed to be flowing along the angles and along the natural curves of the body. So don't panic if you start to see things come out of alignment at this stage. So again, the same thing. I'm going to come up above. I'm going to come here and I'm going to pull out. And look at that, it's starting to curve. I'm happy. So we are now going to do that all throughout. We have all these other vertices which all need to be pulled. You may need to add more edges along the side as well. Now from here it is looking rather compact. Let's try not to go beyond sort of this level, because the modifiers, which will smooth out the geometry later, will pretty much do all the rest of the hard work for us. But what we want to do is make sure that we have a nice, clean, evenly laid out geometry, which we can happily animate at a later stage. So what I'm going to do now is fast forward from here, because I think you understand the concept, and I will join you on the next stage.